Schizophrenia and other psychotic disorders. Schizophrenia and other psychotic disorders are mental illnesses that occur in about 1% of the population. Living with a mental illness means living in a society that is not always sympathetic. Introduction. The voices. I relied on the voices so much for so long. Without them, I felt a void inside me. Whenever I needed some help, I would start talking to them and I would get my answers. They gave me whatever I needed to know, be it good or bad. They were there to help me chalk out my plans, to accept survival and how, or whether to reject it. Without the voices, I couldn't even think about doing anything. I knew I had something to fall back on. No friends, no contacts. Peter, adult survivor. Our perceptions of mental illnesses. Throughout the centuries, people with mental illnesses have been shunned, hidden, forgotten about, and romanticized. People's misperception of mental illness was and still is associated with severe cases, violence, and bizarre behaviors that are the exception, not the rule. Still, these outdated and misinformed views create great pain for people with a mental illness. Stigma and stereotypes. The stigma attached to mental illness can keep people from seeking help. Unfounded stereotypes can lead to decreased self-esteem and increased symptoms. This can strengthen negative beliefs and cause the person suffering from a mental illness to feel that they cannot control their life. Sometimes the consequences can be deadly. Fortunately, more light is being shed on stigma, and as a result, there is more awareness of the truth about mental illness. Stigma can make people feel as though they are defined by their disorder and change is impossible. An illness of the brain. Your brain is one of the most complex parts of your body. Scientists are constantly learning new things about how the brain works and how changes in your brain can make you ill. Mental illnesses or disorders of the brain can be caused by a change in psychology or functioning of the brain, as well as the chemical makeup and structure of the brain. Some mental illnesses are chronic and can last a lifetime, or others are episodic, meaning they go away and come back many times over a person's lifetime. Some people have mild to moderate symptoms, and others can have symptoms that cause severe disabilities. The bottom line is mental illnesses can be treated using medication, therapy, or both. Who gets sick? Mental illness is one of the more common than you think. According to the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, 1 in 5 American adults have a mental illness in 2010. 1/3 of these people were between the age of 18 and 25. Unfortunately, only about 40% of them, or 1 in 10, sought help in dealing with their illness. Some estimates say Some estimates say 20% of the population will experience a mental health issue sometimes during their life. That's about 4.5 million people. Chances are you'll probably know one of them, or maybe you'll experience an illness yourself. Mental illness is more common than you think. Delusions and hallucinations feel real. You might think you are talking to a person who doesn't actually exist, or believe you are in a relationship with someone when in fact you aren't. Chapter 1. What are psychotic disorders? A psychotic disorder is a mental illness in which the major symptoms are delusions and hallucinations. Not my blankie, go that way. And hallucinations. Delusions are beliefs or impressions that a person has that feel real to them but are not rational and do not in fact exist. Hallucinations are when someone sees or hears something that is not real or does not exist. Delusions and hallucinations are only referred to as psychosis. People who are delusional might believe other people are out to hurt them or believe they are a secret agent or Santa Claus. People who have hallucinations believe they see, feel, hear, or smell things that other people don't, all in the family. There are a number of psychotic disorders, including schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, schizophreniform disorder, delusional disorder, brief psychotic disorder, and others that occur as a result of a medical condition, substance abuse, or old age. They all involve periods of psychotic or delusional behavior but differ in their causes, durations, and when they occur. Schizophrenia is the most well-known psychotic disorder, and people diagnosed with it usually have delusions and hallucinations that last longer than 6 months. Belief psychotic disorder usually occurs as a response to a stressful event, such as a death. Substance-induced psychotic disorder occurs in people who use drugs such as alcohol or crack cocaine that cause hallucinations. Schizophrenia. Schizophrenia and schizoaffective disorder are part of the psychotic disorders family. Schizophrenia usually begins in the late teens for boys and the early to mid-20s for girls. It consists of delusions and hallucinations and normally follows a traumatic or stressful event in a person's life, such as a death, starting college, or moving out on one's own. A person's speech or behavior may be disorganized, and their mood or reactions may be flat, as though they don't feel anything, or inappropriate, as though they feel too much. Although it is rare, young children and youth can develop early onset schizophrenia. It is thought that of all the people who have schizophrenia, only 1 in 100 developed it before the age 18. I was both excited and freaked out. My thoughts were huge and nothing else existed. I heard voices through the walls and swooping down on me. They were real to me. I could hear them even if no one else could. Aliyah, 14. Some symptoms of mental illnesses are noticeable and some aren't. Can you tell whether a person in this picture has schizophrenia just by looking at them? Maybe not. Symptoms and signs and symptoms. Schizophrenia impairs a person's ability to manage their emotions, think straight, and relate to other people. Symptoms vary from person to person, and they can change over time, getting better or getting worse. Symptoms include disorganized thoughts and speech, confusion, strange behavior, mood swings, thoughts, and loss of interest in hygiene and eating. It takes more than one sign or symptom to diagnose schizophrenia in adults. When diagnosed, the symptoms of schizophrenia are usually broken down into 3 categories: positive, negative, and cognitive. Positive symptoms. Positive symptoms are wild changes in normal behavior. They include delusions and hallucinations, the inability to complete a thought, incomplete sentences when talking, and acting silly at the same time as being distressed. Negative symptoms. Diagnosing negative symptoms can be difficult, especially with teens, because some symptoms may be mistaken for normal teenage behavior, such as lack of motivation or being antisocial. For a diagnosis to be made, at least 2 of the following symptoms must be present for at least a month: lack of emotion, facial expression and eye contact, disinterest, inability to speak, and lack of interest in things and people, withdrawal from friends and family, being antisocial, inability to carry out normal activities such as hygiene, going to school, or making dinner, lack of motivation. Cognitive symptoms. Cognitive symptoms are related to thinking. They can pose the most problems for someone with schizophrenia because they can interfere with daily activities. They include difficulty in remembering and understanding information and in paying attention or focusing. What causes these disorders? Scientists do not know what causes schizophrenia and other psychotic disorders. They know that chemistry and structure of brains of people with these disorders are different. Our understanding of the brain improves every year with new research, but we don't yet know whether schizophrenia is a neurodevelopmental disorder caused by an impairment in the brain's growth, or a neurodegenerative disorder caused by loss of brain function. Some researchers believe that the cause of schizophrenia has to do with environmental factors that affect your genes. The science of epigenetics looks at how the environment makes your genes work, or how it changes or puts stress on how they function. While some people may be at a greater risk than others because of a family history of mental illness, someone else with no family history can still develop schizophrenia and other psychotic disorders. Stress factor. When researchers talk about stress factors, they mean everything else other than genes.